Alright everybody, this is the Mini Prepper again, and today we're going to take a look at the Spyderco Swish Bowie clone. And yes, I said swish, not slysz. Happened to watch a video that is from Spyderco, and apparently the way it's spelled is not the way it's said. It said swish. So, but let's go over a couple of the stats, and we'll do a couple comparisons, and then we'll get on with the review. The overall length is just under 7 3/4. The cutting length is 3 1/4. You got titanium handles and a D2 blade. Now, let's do some size comparisons. We have the steel wheel cut jack and the Ontario Rat 1. So you can see it's pretty close in size to the cut jack. Now, I know the whole clone thing is a big issue for most people. Not quite as big of an issue for me, I guess. But what I do like is that this does not have the Spidey logo on it, which the ones that have the logos on it, I'm not as big of a fan of. Just because you get somebody who really doesn't know anything about knives can get tricked. I happen to have a knife here. It's the clone of the Spidey Chef. Now, the difference with this, though, is that it's much smaller. Even though it's supposed to be a clone of it, it's much smaller than the real thing. But, as you can see, it does have the Spidey logo on it. And, you know, it says Spyderco on there and everything. But again, it is much smaller than the real thing. But even so, you know, I don't like when they put literally everything on there that would be on the real one, just because I'd hate to see people get tricked and spend, you know, the real one of this is like a $300 knife. This one I paid $54 for it. So, you know, if somebody were to try to pass this off as the real thing and somebody didn't know, you know, they could potentially pay $200-300 for this when it's just not worth that. So I'm glad it doesn't have that on there. But it does have titanium handles, D2 steel, which, you know, it's you know, I'm happy with D2. I have several knives that are in D2, and I've had absolutely no issues with them. They've held a great edge. You know, not the easiest to sharpen, but certainly not the hardest to sharpen. So again, I don't have an issue with D2. I like it. But let's get to the knife here. So as far as I know, and I'm only going to make so many comparisons technically to the real one because, well, I don't have the real one. Simply because I can't afford to pay $300 on a knife. But the comparisons that I will make, at least, are, you know, from pictures, from videos. But as far as I know, dimensionally, this is the same knife. There's really very few differences from the real one. The couple of differences that I notice right off the bat, obviously, is that it doesn't have the logo or anything, doesn't say Spyderco or anything like that. The other is the blade on the real one is like a polished and then slightly stonewashed. This one is just stonewashed. Okay. The other difference I noticed was in the Plunge Grind. On the real one, let's see if I can get this a little better here, it's much more pronounced all the way up to that very first jimping line. On this one, you can see it kind of dies out right before it. But aside from really those couple of differences, that's about it. The construction is the same. It has the contoured titanium. You've got, now I'm not 100% sure if this is G10, the backspacer, or not. I think it is, but not 100% sure. Now, also like on the real one, the jimping, the bottom part of the jimping, is basically even with the handle there. And that's really basically the same on this. Probably not quite as good, I'm sure. But, you know, it is very, very close, even down to the fact that on the real one, this part of the backspacer actually does stick out just like that one does. And also, it had lock stick, just like the real one did. Now, it's gone, probably because I've opened and closed this knife probably about 1,000 times already. But the lock stick is gone now. So that's something I'm very happy about. The lines on this knife, the same as on the real one, you know, kind of continues over there. The Spidey hole, or the lock bar in the Spidey hole, halfway on it, just like on the real one. It runs on the phosphor bronze washers, which I don't know if we're going to be able to see it on this. And of course, I don't have my flashlight. But I have had this apart because I decided, and not that the action was bad on it, it goes in and out just fine, but it's not drop shut or anything. Now, I could loosen up the pivot and make it that way, but I chose to have it this way because what I did was I took it apart and I polished around the pivot area just to make it a little smoother. But it was smooth when I got it. So it wasn't like, some of the clones I've gotten were very gritty in here. This was not the case. There was absolutely nothing wrong with this. But I still went ahead and polished it up just to make it a little nicer. And it shoots out of there just fine. Now also, on the real one, it's flat like this, and then comes to a rounded spine. Now, I don't know how well I'm going to get this in the video, but if you notice right there, now on the real one, it ain't going to be like that, where it's ground a bit more on this side than it is on the other, but I'm not really going to complain about that. The ergos are very nice. You do have some hot spots though, but all in all, it's nice in the hand. The pocket clip is a bit of a hot spot, and the edges are not rounded enough, in my opinion, so they do kind of create a little bit of a hot spot, but not bad. The jimping is very good. Now, I don't know on the real one how close the jimping is compared to this one, and if the edges are a bit more rounded on the handles. So I can't really comment too much on that. Like I said, on here it's a little bit of a hot spot, but nothing horrible. You're going to be able to cut for a while with this knife, and you're still going to be okay. The pocket clip is basically a deep carry. You're going to have roughly about that much hanging out of your pocket, which isn't bad. For me, it doesn't matter too much, deep carry or not. But some people, they really like the deep carry pocket clip. And it is reversible, just like on the real one. Tip up only, right or left. So all in all, I got to say, this is really, honestly, it's one of my favorite knives. I really have gotten into the titanium handle knives, and I love the overall design of this knife. It's just a really smooth nice looking knife. Not too many parts with it. You've got a couple of chunks of titanium, the blade, your pivot, Torx construction, and yeah, this is just, it's honestly, it's really a fantastic knife. You can't go wrong getting this knife. I think if you do get it, if you're not too overly crazy about having a clone knife, this is definitely one worth getting. You'll really enjoy having this knife. Like I said, I've really gotten into titanium handled knives, so for me, I really happen to like this one. Really nice blade shape on it. I believe this is clip point. I always hear people call a knife like this a drop point, but this is really, it's a clip point. Nice belly on it here. So, well, that's about it for this knife. Again, well worth it. You can get this on a couple of different sites. I happen to get this one on eBay, but I've seen them on AliExpress and DHgate. They're all roughly about the same amount. I've seen them anywhere from $47 all the way up to $75. Which 75, basically I still think it's worth it at 75, but no sense in getting it at $75 when you could pay, roughly 50, 55 for it. Lanyard hole, if I did forget to talk about that, it does have a lanyard hole on it, and it goes all the way through the back spacer. So, all right, that is it for the Spyderco Swish Bowie clone. If you like the review, please hit like and please subscribe. And until the next time, I'll see you then.